Welcome to Roguecast, the official podcast of Rogues Gallery Comics and Games in Round Rock, Texas, where we talk about games, comics, and other stuff on our pop cultural radar. I'm Randy.
I'm Nick.
This is Dave.
And this time we are starting off with a TV show, one that's been off the air for a few years, but you can still find on your Netflixes and your Amazon Primes and your DVDs.
Yep.
And that is Justice League Unlimited.
This show is pretty high in people's esteem.
Yep.
What brings it to our table? Is it because of... did this show up just because of my rewatch?
This show because of your rewatch. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, Nick and I both love this show.
Sort of. Well, actually, it's not really a rewatch for me. This kind of went under my radar.
Yep.
Just wasn't watching a ton of cartoons in the early 2000s.
Well, it wasn't on Netflix. That guides a lot of your viewing.
Now that it is on Netflix, yeah, it is. Actually, I did not have cable, and I don't have cable now, but I do have Netflix.
You had access to many friends with DVD copies, but borrowing it meant that we don't never see it again.
Yeah. So I'm going to be running a Justice League role-playing game in a few weeks, and I was like, I need to bone up and get all in Justice League mode, and what better way to do that than to watch the Ultimate Justice League cartoon?
Yep. This is the culmination of the Deanie Tim era. Yep. You know, it started off in Batman, then Superman, then they did the Justice League cartoon, and the Justice League cartoon was okay.
And by the way, I think part of the reason why I didn't flock to this was because the Justice League cartoon, while good, was not as amazing as Batman or Superman.
It was disappointing. I remember watching it. We were all excited, and it was like they were doing these big 3-part mega episodes, and it felt like, despite the long time, they weren't really doing a lot of great stories.
I think those guys sometimes are at their best with their one-episode limitations. You have to find a way to do that. And the cool thing with Justice League Unlimited is they gave themselves the entire cast of superheroes in the DC universe.
Everyone in the DC universe. Everyone in the... Like, Crimson Avenger shows up, okay? Aztec is in the background. Most of you listening don't know who Aztec is.
Yeah, I don't know who Aztec is. I know who he is visually, but I don't know who he is.
Yeah, he's a Grant Morrison character.
He's a crazy Grant Morrison character. The old vigilante cowboy is in there.
And he's a major character in a couple episodes.
Yep. And so they have all these characters at their behest, and they're not in every episode. No. What happens is it's like the JLA Watchtower looks like this massive, the barracks/hotel for superheroes, where there's dozens at the very least on board at any time, and then Martian Manhunter dispatches them mission style. Yeah. Like, he'll take 5 or 6 of them, or 3 or 4, or something like that.
Yeah, the conceit at the beginning is that they recruit, starts from Green Arrow's point of view, which, the show already had me, because Green Arrow's one of my favorite characters, and they did such a great take on him here. The voice character is Kin something. I don't remember his last name, but he's perfect for it.
Yeah, he's got to be kind of a wise ass for Green Arrow, and he does a great job.
And they open with recruiting Green Arrow to this new Justice League, where they show basically everybody, and it's basically like, hey, we just recruited every superhero on the planet into the Justice League.
Right, and Green Arrow's like, I take care of the little guy. He's like, I don't want to
why do I need to be here?
Why do I need to be here? Yeah, it's like, you're just going to take me away from what I do best. And, of course, over the course of the episode, he sees that these are things that reverberate down, and
there's a great line from Batman. He says, those big monsters you don't fight, they tend to step on the little guy.
Yep.
And there's also, what I love about it, and this is a minor spoiler, but this is for a long ago cartoon.
This is the ending?
Yes. The reason Green Arrow joins is not because he's discovered that he is important and should join the Justice League.
Because Batman is trying to talk him into it, and at the very end, he's like, I don't think it's for me.
Yeah.
And then
he sees Black Canary.
And she's like, it's like she's adjusting her fishnets in the other room.
Now, here's the thing: did Bruce set that up in a way that
it's entirely possible? But it's just.
I like to think that.
But they made it out that it was, I believe, coincidence.
It's such a great bit, and it's like that's why he decided to stick around because it's a pretty girl.
He raises his eyebrow, and Batman's like, "So, see you next week," and he's like, "You just might."
I love that. That was such a great Green Arrow moment, and I really love that. And Green Arrow is in a lot of these episodes.
He gets a lot of really good episodes.
Well, they also was notable. Just to focus in on that first episode for a second, as I was rewatching it, that episode had Captain Atom in it, and Supergirl, and
John Stewart as Green Lantern.
John Stewart as Green Lantern. And the one that I kind of popped for me was Captain Atom.
Yeah.
Who in the comics is a character I've never really liked much at all.
He's rarely been that good.
He's just kind of a stiff guy who's sort of a military Superman.
Yeah.
And in the animation, I think because they're working with such a limited time span, they're like, we've got you for 22 minutes, and you have to like the character in that turn.
Yeah.
He is still kind of the straight-laced guy, but they kind of showed that, making him a little bit awkward around people, they kind of resent him a little bit, and yet he is like he's a very brave guy. He's going to try and sacrifice himself at the very end.
Yeah.
And you kind of see him both, like, you feel a little sorry for him, and then you see why people have their respect for him. And I was like, wow, in just 22 minutes, actually I got a Captain Atom story I liked.
They hit all the... I mean, there's a great Supergirl story going on in there, too, about her being cocky.
It wasn't just one story. It was 4 or 5 different stories.
There's Supergirl's learning curve and her relationship with Green Lantern, who's sort of her drill sergeant mentor. There's Green Arrow and his decision to join. There's the whole thing with the sort of fake North Korea that has built up this villain Brimstone from Suicide Squad, for all things.
Yep.
That's one thing I really love about Justice League Unlimited. They bring in all this different stuff, and they use it well. Like, they brought in Roulette from Johns' Justice Society run.
Jeff Johns, yep.
They bring in Warren Ellis to write an episode where he brings in sort of his own nanotechnology stuff. They bring
guy and his nanotech.
They bring in elements from the Morrison Justice League, from Justice League International, from every possible era, and they make it all work. Mm-hmm. And I love that there's all these little nods to the DC universe, and yet you don't have to be an expert to understand it. In fact, it helps if you're not, because you're going to enjoy it more. You'll get some of the nods, maybe.
But I was going to say, if you are, I mean, you're going to be kind of in heaven.
Oh, there's so many nods. Plus, they just have definitive takes. Like, their take on the question is maybe the best take on the character. That includes the legendary O'Neill.
Yeah. Kind of sweet.
You know, so here's what I was thinking when I was watching that episode, because that episode was new to me, and I only saw it like a week ago. The questions there seemed very informed by Rorschach.
Yeah.
Who, of course, was based on the original 60s question created by Steve Ditko and maybe somebody else who wrote it. I can't remember if he wrote it or not.
Ayn Rand.
But, right. But he's a paranoid conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
And kind of brilliant and possibly insane.
Basically, definitely influenced by Mulder, too. Don't you get a little bit of Mulder X-Files vibe there?
So there's a great scene in there where it's funny because Green Arrow, who normally would in the comics is sometimes the conspiracy guy, but in this he's kind of like he's warning, I think, Supergirl in this episode. He's like stay away from this guy. He's a nutcase, and he's like, and Supergirl's been having these nightmares, and he's like, we don't, and then the question thinks it's this mess, so there's a conspiracy behind it, and Green Arrow's like, you know, this may be not be a conspiracy, this may just mean that she like had nachos before dinner last night, and then the question, just without missing a beat, he's like 2 hot dogs and a soda or whatever, and she's like, what? And she's like, do you go through? I guess Green Arrow's like, did you go through her trash? And he's like, don't be silly. I go through everyone's trash.
Does this also have the one where question's singing?
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So I was watching that with my girlfriend, and we were watching that, and we're like, "What is that sound?"
Yeah.
Because what is happening is earlier he was driving a cab, and there was like this crazy pop, Britney Spears-ish pop tune playing.
Oh, and it's catchy and stupid, too.
And it is catchy and stupid. And then later on, they show him breaking into this place, and it's
just walking up to a place, and
he's got like a chair, and he's going to smash the window in and go in and get some files. And he's saying this, and I'm like, is there a weird sound thing going on here? Because it's almost like he's just speaking the lines kind of methodically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it was like, oh my god, it's that song from earlier, and we just broke up.
Yeah.
Just broke up.
The question is hilarious and so much fun. You haven't even seen, he's in many other episodes, and they do some great stuff with him. This was the episode that did a great take on, it was an interesting take on Power Girl. They never call her Power Girl.
No.
But it's an interesting take on the character. And, I mean, Dave is just starting to scratch the surface of all these characters showing up. You and I know that, like, Suicide Squad shows up in season 2.
And I actually have seen that because you showed me that episode, so I know that was a badass
episode. Doomsday shows up.
And they do a great take on Doomsday.
They do. I mean, all these characters that, even some of the ones that I'm like, I don't really care for that character, their take on it is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm like,
we were talking about how Hawk and Dove has generally been boring, but they do a kind of a fun episode with Hawk and Dove.
Yeah, and here's the thing. That was one where, like, that stretched even their boundaries. But I thought the episode was good. The characters didn't like super win me over, but the episode was good.
But as someone pointed out, as our friend Bo pointed out, when you find out that Hawk and Dove are voiced by the brothers from the Wonder Years,
in a role reversal where
the younger brother is now the older brother, and the more aggressive,
he's Hawk.
And oh man, that blew my mind.
And the bully older brother is Dove. Now.
Again, that is the genius of Andrea Romano, who the voice casting on this show. If you're a Whedon fan, you're going to be in heaven because almost all the Whedon people, like Nathan Fillion plays a cowboy again.
Yes,
Amy Acker plays Huntress, I believe.
She does.
Morena Baccarin is Black Canary.
Yep.
Now, how
Gina Torres is
Vixen.
Now, is it just that those people had a foot in that, or was this more or less simultaneous with Firefly?
It was
like how did all
Firefly.
those Whedon people show up there?
I don't know if they were all getting voice
not
work.
That they all went on to like amazing careers.
Adam Baldwin does several voices.
Good Lord.
I think Adam Baldwin might have been Captain Atom. I'm not positive on that. But I think he might have been.
I don't think he was in the episode I saw, but I'd have to double check.
But the voice casting is really, really good, and there's a lot of notable names. There's of course also like the big I forget Billy West and Lamar. What's his
Lamar.
Phil Lamar.
We should probably also say, by the way, there's spectacular action sequences.
Yeah, the action sequences are great, and like you say, 30 minutes or 22 minutes turns out to be the perfect amount of time to use multiple characters to still get plenty of action in. Oh, Dennis Farina, the recently departed. Plays Wildcat, which is perfect casting.
Yep.
In a one of my favorite episodes of the series I've seen numerous times. And the great thing about, like I say, Dave has not gotten to this point, but there's a story arc that starts shaping up. In fact, that question episode is the tease for it.
Yep, it is the start.
And it starts and it builds this great finale. So that season 1 is a complete story in a way.
Yep.
Even though there's a lot of standalone episodes, and then season 2 takes off from a new point of view, and they're all so good. So many characters get used. Great voice casting. Great acting.
I'm gonna throw out a complaint.
Yeah,
I think we're too positive, and I need a complaint.
Okay.
My complaint is I still don't like the Queen style guitar rock music.
Oh, the intro. Okay, yeah. Let's talk
just
about
the intro though. It's the music for the whole episode.
Throughout. Yeah, the music is.
It's
not
a
great.
little bit. Who's the guitarist for Queen? Is that Brian May?
Brian May.
It's a little bit Brian May.
If Brian May was terrible.
No, here's the thing. It is not that bad.
It's not the Enterprise theme song,
right?
And it's not the Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
And that's the other point I was going to make is that some of the best cartoons have really terrible theme music.
It's true.
Music.
I just wish that like the episodes were more the orchestral stuff that they did for the Batman and Superman cartoons was so good,
so good.
And I'm sure that they were trying to make it a little more pop.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: actually, they do pretty decent with the guitar score and stuff in the episodes. But if there's one thing I could change, I would go ahead and make the normal orchestral
I'm just saying,
score.
they made Morgan Le Fay interesting.
Yeah, and Morgan Le Fay's never interesting.
No, she's not.
Yeah, and her kid Mordred, who was like they really captured annoying little kid you just want to beat senseless.
And that was another riff on a DC story, The World Without Grown-Ups.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't tied into that actual story, but it's the same basic concept. They bring in DC stories and do them.
And the lead writer on this was Dwayne McDuffie.
Yeah, Dwayne McDuffie's one of the lead writers.
He did that. I mean, he
also,
knew how to do all
is
that.
it the second episode of the season? It's second or third. They did the famous Alan Moore story for The Man Who Knows Everything.
The second episode.
And it's a beautiful adaptation of it. It's just really well done. They sub in Wonder Woman for Robin, which works out really well. Mm-hmm. And they really, really made it work for a kid's cartoon. It's a dark story.
It's a dark story, that ultimately has Superman in this sort of alternate dream world that is where it's supposed to be everything goes right for him, and it's almost like his mind is forcing these bad things to happen to try and shake himself out of it. And it sort of culminates in this moment where here he is talking to his son in that world, who's like 8 years old and who's scared because it looks like their planet is going to blow up. Yeah. And Superman kind of breaks down, and he's like, "I don't know if you're real." And he's saying that to his son that he really believes is his son.
Yeah, it's dark.
Stuff.
He has to throw away everything. The vicious thing is you have to throw away everything you ever wanted in order to get out of this trap.
And he gets his revenge.
Now I have one specific complaint.
Then he beats the holy hell out of Mongol.
I have one specific complaint about that episode, which is there's a very famous line, that burn, which I think is supposed to be sort of a smoldering, low, angry, and he did it kind of actiony when he read it, and I didn't think it was the best reading of it.
I agree. It's a rare, slight misread. I
didn't think it was bad, but
it's a rare misstep for a show that almost gets everything right.
Yeah.
But, this is definitely worth watching. It's on Netflix, and man...
You might as well take advantage and watch 3 seasons of awesome superhero action.
If you're at 2 seasons.
What?
2 seasons.
What the hell?
Yeah, but they're big seasons.
Go watch the Justice League.
And the Justice League stuff leads up to it. Especially the Justice Lords episode becomes very important.
It does.
But... It's so good, and if you're a DC fan, it's really maybe
the best.
Why haven't
you watched this yet?
It's maybe the best cartoon they've done. So drifting off from there, we were going to talk about a game that we all love called Pandemic.
what could make a better topic for a board game than a global virus that's going to kill everybody? It's so fun.
We'll band together and stop it.
Well,
Right.
although if you're playing Pandemic properly, probably not.
Well,
Right.
you know, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose.
You're going to lose.
So
Yeah.
Pandemic is a board game from Z-Man Games, which has a mechanic that, if you're a board gamer, you're going to be familiar with this because it's a rising concept
Yep.
of the cooperative game.
Although this was
But
the
if you're-
first one I played.
Yeah, it was sort of the new concept to us. It had been around before that.
Yeah, but this was the first one I played that was like, and it's definitely grown since this.
And I think, but it may be my favorite and most sort of most polished of them. I've seen more complex versions like the Battlestar Galactica game that's really is also amazing. But this one is the sort of the perfect intro one, and I think the most approachable of them.
Yeah, the basics for a cooperative game is that you're essentially playing against a timer or against a set game mechanic, and
You're playing against the board.
you're basically on every turn you're going to help and hurt the team.
Right. It's in the end of the game, all the players will either succeed or they will all fail.
Yeah, you fall or succeed together. Yeah,
And what you will do in games like this is you talk on your turn to the other players, and you're like, well, I'm going to do this on my turn, and I'm going to try and set you up to do this on your turn.
Yeah.
And that will hopefully set him up to 2 turns from now do something. And then you're like, well, wait, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe there's a better plan. So you collaborate in a way you never would with a game with standard. What? That's right.
yeah. It's not unlike, say, a role-playing game without a DM.
Yeah,
It's where you're all working together, you're all talking to work stuff out, but there's game mechanics that keep you focused on playing as opposed to just talking.
And the hook here is that the world is being ravaged by 4 deadly viruses, which are just abstract color representations of color on this map. And you have a map of the world, and each one of you is a specialist. There's like what are the
There's an operations expert, there's a doctor, there's a researcher. Each one of them has a special ability related to
something only you can do in the game.
Yeah, and basically you have cards that represent each city, which you can use to either fly to those cities, or if you get 5 of the same color, you can cure a virus.
Yep.
And then there are other cards that infect those cities, and the infections are represented by cubes of 1 to 3, and if you get 3 cubes and you get another infection, it becomes an outbreak, and it goes to all the cities around you, and that's what can lead to you losing the game.
It is placing those cubes and sort of seeing the virus as it sort of expands and morphs across the world is supremely satisfying in the game. I'd say there's something creepy about it, like it's like when you see cities that are on the verge of outbreak, and if you happen to draw that city again. That that'll cascade into this city.
There's some great tension in the game.
It feels like you are in a movie and you are doing there's like 10 seconds left, to the bomb blowing up kind of scene.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strategy involved, but it's also just, it's just a really fun, interesting take
even
on
if you do lose, and
you do a lot because it's hard.
It's never not fun.
Yeah,
and that is a big key thing, because if I lost all the time, and that would get frustrating.
Yeah.
But for some reason, this game...
I believe my general average, and I haven't played it in like a few months, but my general average seems to be lose 2 or 3 for every 1 I win.
Yeah, that's about right for me. And when we've won, I've often won by the skin of our teeth. We won by one turn the last time I played.
Yeah.
Like, if we had gone one more turn, we would have lost.
Yeah, it's some of the victories in this are just really exciting.
The way you win the game is by curing all 4 viruses.
Right.
If you do that, you win.
So you're trying to basically acquire the cards that represent the color of that virus. You have to get them to like a sort of a CDC center and cure it. And while during the game, you'll also like play rare cards that like allow you to helicopter someone someplace. It has the feel of a big suspense movie, like Outbreak or something. Only it's better than Outbreak.
I believe this is a 2 to 4 player game.
It is.
I have generally played it only with 4 players, and I think that's probably the best way to play it.
Yes.
Now they've also added 2 new expansions. One of them, which is called
On the Brink.
On the Brink, which was the original expansion, which adds another color of virus. I believe it might add another player. I'm not positive.
Originally,
about
at least,
that.
it added the bioterrorist
and
option.
it added a possibility of bioterrorist where one of you is working against the group.
Also, it comes with petri dishes, and you get to name your viruses.
You get to name your viruses.
Yes.
Neat stuff like that. And then a new one that just came out called In the Lab, which I haven't played or looked at and don't really know much about
That adds actually a solo play.
Oh, interesting.
And
I think it's one of those that adds a variety of options, like the Traders and Barbarians set for Summer
Okay, so you can sort of mix and match.
Yep. And it's a testament to the game that it's already inspired 2 sequels.
Yeah.
What I was going to say something about it is I really like how clean the mechanics are. When you play it, you'll realize there's a really neat and clever mechanic wherein if a place flares up with a virus, that makes it more likely to, in the next few turns, to show up again.
Yeah.
Because you return cards to the deck, to the top of them.
Yeah.
And there's ways to avoid them if you do clever gameplay and the use of certain cards. But it sort of mimics the actual mechanic where basically, the reality, where places that are like have bad health issues are more likely to have more bad health issues.
Yeah.
And it's just very clever. But also, the game has printed on the board a few key things to do on each turn, and everybody has a reminder card.
Yep.
And so once you play the game like once or twice and you know it, these reminder cards tell you everything you need to know between the board and the one card in front of you. You almost never need to look at the rule book.
No, it's really well designed, and the thing that's kind of fun about it is there are, I think, 3 different ways to lose.
Yes.
And 1 way to win.
Right.
Yes. So
you will feel like the odds are stacked against you, and when you win, you will feel like you are awesome.
Yes. And also is the great starting mechanic. Whoever was sick last goes first.
Yes,
that's true.
That remains my favorite method of choosing who goes first in a game.
It's really fun. So we all recommend that. Moving on to our final topic this week, we're going to talk about a comic that we've all been reading. We all talked about, a couple weeks back, we talked about Mark Waid's Daredevil. He is also writing a notable other comic at Marvel. He's writing Indestructible Hulk.
Yep. But you lied, Randy. We haven't all been reading it because I haven't been following it.
No, but you read some.
No, I actually,
You read the first issue?
Yes, I did. Yes, that's right. So it didn't completely connect for me.
No.
Right.
Your job is to convince me I was wrong. Actually, I've been thinking about going back, and there was a few things about the concept that just didn't completely grab me.
The big concept is that...
But the concept is cool, though.
The concept is what I liked. It was Bruce Banner goes to S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's not that S.H.I.E.L.D. comes to Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner goes to S.H.I.E.L.D. and says, look...
I'm wasting my life.
I'm wasting my life. If you give me scientific resources and a research team so that when I'm Bruce Banner, I can do the kind of thing that Tony Stark does and create inventions, I will, when I'm Hulk, you can use me like a bomb, essentially.
Right. He is tired of basically being on the run and trying to cure himself and failing so often.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm going to treat it like a person who's got a serious illness.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm going to try and learn to deal with it and not run from it, basically.
Yeah. He says, I've accepted that I'm not going to be able to cure the Hulk. I'm not going to be able to get rid of the Hulk.
Which is kind of nice because there is a feel for the longtime reader that it's like, we've seen the story of him being tormented about being the Hulk. Where could he evolve to with it?
Yeah. Now, and that starts off with interesting, and he has a very fractious relationship with Maria Hill, who's running S.H.I.E.L.D. right now, and that's a lot of fun.
He goes in kind of smart, kind of knowing, S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably going to try and use him and manipulate him in some ways, but he's a smart guy too.
Yeah, and he set up sort of defenses against that
which you see later. It starts off with art by Leinil Francis Yu, and I think that's part of the problem, to be honest. I think he was not the best choice to start off with.
He is a good artist.
He is a good artist. I just don't know that he was ideal choice because right now it's Matteo Scalera who's doing a much better job, and prior to that, there's a 3-issue run. Was it 3 issues?
It was 3 issues.
Where Bruce Banner and his scientific team go to Asgard to get this sort of ice. They go to the ice giant sort of world to get this technology that will help. This magic that they'll use to be useful technology. And as a result, they accidentally time travel back and meet classic Thor before he's ever met the Hulk.
Right.
And it's all drawn by Walt Simonson, who did some of the classic Thor. Yep. And wow, was that a lot of fun.
It was a really good story arc, and
I need to read that one.
It was amazing seeing Simonson do Thor again.
Yeah,
and
so much fun. And there's the thing is there are about 12 issues in at this point, I think.
Yeah,
and the team that he's built up around Banner, I feel like he hasn't quite defined them as much as I'd like.
I haven't read. Are they S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives?
They're scientists. He brings in a team of scientists to help him.
People that he chooses that are from whatever line of work that he wants to focus.
And they're all clearly meant to be sort of big kids. They all have character flaws and secrets and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like Waid thinks we know them better than we do.
That's interesting. Maybe one of those cases where the writer is like, I know them. So they know.
One of them's sort of suicidal, and we don't really see that until it's not really played out in a way that I feel is really clear. But they're interesting.
You think they'll
characters.
evolve into something? Maybe?
I do. I think that there's more to be done with them.
By the way, this reminds me something I did enjoy, and now as I'm remembering some of the stuff in those issues that I read, was he specifically has a rivalry with Tony Stark.
Yeah,
and it's kind of funny because Tony Stark is so cocky. and yet suddenly he's like afraid. He's like, oh wait, if Banner has the time and resources to devote himself to his craft, he could outpace me.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny to see Stark getting a little bit uneasy about this. It was bruising his ego a little bit.
And I think we probably mentioned this when we did our Daredevil thing. Wade doesn't forget about the Marvel Universe. He uses it.
Yeah.
So you get to meet Thor. You get to meet, a crossover with Daredevil. You get to sort of get the whole Marvel Universe. It's not just Hulk in this little facet.
Yeah.
You get to see him kind of intermingle.
Also, Hulk Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hulk Weapon of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a really fun concept that they do some really fun stuff with.
I have a question for you on that. Go ahead with what you were saying.
No, that's what I was saying.
My question is, so Hulk what is the Hulk's level of intelligence right now?
He's not unlike the Hulk in the movie. He's smart, but he's not like super smart.
Right. He's kind of thuggish.
That's about right.
And would you... So how does he know how to follow orders? How do they use him?
Well, they just point him at the bad guys. And usually the bad guys start shooting at him, and he attacks them.
Fair enough.
I think they did an underwater one. Was it?
They did.
Atuma?
Yeah, it was Atuma.
And I'm like, Atuma.
Is it Atuma or Atuma?
I always thought Atuma.
Atuma does sound better. I think. Yeah, it was a little
but
easier.
It was fun. I mean, it's just all the villains he goes up against that are interesting, and I'm enjoying it.
I had one customer who was not liking it. He's a longtime Hulk fan, but wanted he likes the more traditional Hulk take.
Yeah.
He's bugged by the armor. And so I have to ask, is there a particular reason why the Hulk is wearing some kind of armor in this series?
Now, the armor was originally because they were going to be going to different environments, and the Hulk couldn't withstand the environments. I think that was an editorial thing where hey, give him some cool armor, and unfortunately, it's not a great look.
No.
Because he's still basically just the Hulk, right?
He's just the Hulk. Yeah.
Okay.
There is a reason
set
for
apart the era.
Yeah.
I almost felt like it's S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to monitor your vitals and all of this.
There is a reason for it. I've just forgotten it because I didn't really buy it.
So it's clearly not too big a
it's not.
I think a lot of it
still
has to deal with it feeds in stuff about
but
him.
I think a lot of people who want to read the Hulk want to read Hulk smashing things.
Yeah.
And there's definitely that in every issue, but this is definitely more of a Banner story.
Right.
This is the point of view of Banner. And if you liked what Mark Ruffalo did with the character in the movie, you're going to like this take on Banner. The latest storyline they just started doing is Hulk Agent of Time, which is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s time travel related thing. And they did a great use of an old I think it's a Thor villain. He is a Thor villain, Zarko, and they did him They did sort of a Hannibal Lecter-ish thing with him where he was predicting all these things that were going to happen, and now they're happening. And Hulk is dealing with these anarchic time travelers who are trying to mess up the timeline. So he's going back, and in order to have Banner's intellect, he's got Banner in they downloaded Banner's intelligence to a robot that's helping him out.
Interesting.
So you got Banner and Hulk coexisting, and Banner's advising the Hulk. And
I'm sure the Hulk is I'm going to smash this.
He's not thrilled with it now. It's a lot of fun, and the first issue, or the first issue of the time travel involves cowboys and dinosaurs. So
nice. It sounds like he's having a lot of fun.
Oh, it's fun. I think the time travel is maybe they finally got their feet underneath them and are doing what the book should have been from the beginning.
How do they rein the Hulk in after he smashes things for him?
Usually he calms down, and then it comes back down.
Okay, yeah. Just curious. That sounds pretty cool. I feel like I need to give this book another shot. I like Daredevil so much.
Yeah.
I think it was just one of those where it's I'm not as big on the concept as you guys are, although I do think it's a good concept. Yeah. It's just not as big for me. I do like Hulk on the run from everybody.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say about Indestructible Hulk is that if your bar is set so high for Daredevil, and it's nowhere near as good as Daredevil, very few things could be.
Right.
So if you're looking for something it's the guy who did Daredevil, he's going to do the same thing for the Hulk. He's not really doing the same thing for Hulk, but he's doing an interesting take on the Hulk. I mean, the definitive Hulk is still probably Peter David.
Yeah.
And this is not of a piece of what he was doing.
What's funny, though, is Peter David is a definitive Hulk writer, but his definitive take on the Hulk was actually about 20 different incarnations over the years, varying levels of intelligence, Joe Fixit, Gray,
because he was on the book for forever.
Yeah, all this different stuff. And so within,
But I think Peter David's voice is sort of
right.
That a lot of people remember.
But I was going to say something like this. It has been established the Hulk is sort of a mercurial creature, varying levels of intelligence and ferocity and all this. And so I probably should go back with that sort of in mind. That it's this is not sort of destined to become a definitive version of the Hulk.
No.
It's another interesting segment of his life.
Yeah, it's a fun take. It's one of the Marvel books I'm really enjoying, and it's partly because I think it's a neat concept, and Wade does some fun stuff, and it's had, like to say that Simonson 3-parter really won me over, and that's not in the first hardcover, that's in probably the second one that's come out yet. But Yeah, definitely worth checking out. Well, that'll close us out for this time. We will sign off with our traditional
Battle cry.
Yo, Joe!